And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hi, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook. It is Monday, April 29th, and this outlook will be for Tuesday into Wednesday. And we're going to start out Tuesday morning with generally quiet conditions again throughout the mainland. The potential, though, for some scattered light rain, snow showers will be the case here, especially with the daytime heating. In the morning, that activity would be least defined. And we're watching a couple areas of low pressure with some precipitation, mainly some light rain nudging up toward just off of Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula. IFR conditions bearing straight down around St. Lawrence Island, including Savunga to Nunavut Island. And also areas of lower cloudiness and fog along the Arctic coast, and especially down along the lower Yukon Delta. We have a frontal system attached to a low way out in here, the far western Aleutians, and a band of IFR conditions along that front associated with precipitation, and then generally MVFR conditions over the Gulf, and VFR conditions across much of southeast Alaska, including a good portion of the Panhandle. By Tuesday afternoon, we could see some MVFR conditions develop middle upper Yukon Valley in response to the daytime heating, and some scattered light either rain and snow showers mix. Also along areas of the Alaska range, there could be some cumulus buildups and also just some general filling in of some cloud cover with the daytime heating. Back to the west, IFR conditions lurking just off of the Yukon and Kuskokwim deltas, and still a band of IFR lower bearing into the eastern Aleutians. And Wednesday morning, we find IFR or MVFR conditions along the Yukon River across the mainland, and also up along and especially south side of the Alaska range. Generally VFR expected, though, Wednesday morning across the Panhandle and back to the west. We have an area of low pressure that's going to be working its way eastward, and with it we anticipate this front. There's going to be secondary low development, and then the pattern is going to start to become more active by the end of the week into the upcoming weekend. We're going to see a series of systems coming in off the lower Bering and North Pacific that's just going to make much of the southern portion of the mainland and in through the Panhandle active again by the weekend. And even some of that moisture is going to get pulled up, especially up through the eastern half of the interior. So we have changes coming. This quieter weather pattern we enjoyed much of last week and this past weekend is going to give way to more active and actually probably a little cooler temperatures. We'll see temperatures trending below normal. And then for Wednesday afternoon, we see an area of rain and rain showers expanding along the western Gulf, east side of the Kenai, Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, the entrance of Cook Inlet, lower ceilings, lower visibilities there. Also some showers up along the Alaska range, and then back down here through the lower portion of the Yukon Valley, and including areas off the YK deltas. Again, pretty broad area of IFR conditions there in the eastern Bering, including St. Matthew and St. Paul. So past conditions on Tuesday are looking MVFR at Anatuvik Pass as well as Adigan Pass there up in the east central Brooks Range. As we come on down into the Alaska range, we expect VFR conditions early at Lake Clark and Merrill becoming MVFR because there will be some cloud buildups with the daytime heating. Rainy Pass as well as Windy Pass, we're looking at MVFR conditions. And as we go over toward Isabel, VFR early in the day becoming MVFR, especially by afternoon. Ventesta Pass should generally be able to hold on to VFR conditions. And Tanita Pass crossing through the Copper River Basin should generally hold on to VFR conditions on Tuesday. Portage Pass also VFR. And finally, in the north end of the Panhandle and much of the Panhandle on Tuesday, we are expecting VFR conditions. They're up there at Chilkoot and White. Well, what's going on at the surface and aloft when it comes to the freezing levels? Tuesday morning, freezing line runs out over the Bering and dips south of St. Paul, coming back up along the Yukon-Kuskokwim basins, the west side of the Alaska range. There could be a few areas that see temperatures hold on just above freezing, and along the Gulf Coast and then into the inner channels of the Panhandle. Freezing levels aloft are highest as we get further east into Canada. We see freezing levels above 6,000 and 8,000 feet there in through British Columbia. Back to the south and west, that frontal system associated with low pressure back through the southwest Bering Sea. We find freezing levels aloft bumping upward to 6,000 feet. As a result, along this front where there is precipitation and some thicker cloud cover, at least the lower bearing on the north side of the Aleutians above 8,000 feet, there could be some moderate icing. South of there above 10,000 feet, pockets of light showers or moisture and clouds could see isolated icing above 5,000 feet. And then with any type of showers that pop up, especially with the daytime heating, a little more convective in nature, we could find some icing above 7,000 feet here through the upper Yukon Valley in the vicinity, especially of the Yukon Flats. For the jet stream at 30,000 feet, winds relatively light here, especially over the Gulf. And then over the mainland, we have generally a westerly flow south of the Brooks Range, 50, 60 knots. And then the jet cores are generally south of the Aleutians and south of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island in through the North Pacific at 9,000 feet or 700 millibars. Generally a southwesterly flow along and south of the Yukon River across the mainland. There's actually a backdoor, a little cold front that's going to bring in some colder air down and across the north slope. And so that's why we see the winds switching direction. We could see winds out of the northeast developing, especially later this week across the Arctic coast. And then down to 3,000 feet, we have the one low circulation south of the Gulf, but that's way off land. Here's the low circulation way out toward the western Aleutians and a broad belt of 40 to even isolated 50 knot winds out of the southeast ahead of the front. And then on the south side of the low, winds of 50 to as high as 60 knots just southwest of the Aleutian chain. That's where most of the issues are going to be with any type of turbulence. We also have some pretty good winds coming in off the west end of the Brooks Range and off of like Point Hope, Cape Lisburne. So up there in the north, there could be some moderate turbulence along the west side and the southwest slopes here, the western portion of the Brooks Range, surface to 4,000 feet on Tuesday afternoon. And then back out here across the Aleutians with the front and the low back here toward the far western Aleutians, we expect areas of moderate turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet.